welcome back to the Jazz at NMU Tune of the Week. This week we're going to be looking at Autumn Leaves, which is probably one of the best known jazz standards. This tune was composed in 1945 by Joseph Kosma, with lyrics by the French poet and screenwriter Jacques Prévert. The French title of this tune, Les Feuilles Mortes, translates as The Dead Leaves. Now in 1951, Johnny Mercer had the opportunity to put English lyrics to this tune. And at that time, he also changed the name of it to Autumn Leaves. And of course, that's how we know it today. This is a great tune for beginning improvisers, and I think most jazz players would put it in their top 10 of tunes you need to know. So let's take a closer look at how it's put together.
Autumn Leaves is a 32-bar tune, which is very common for popular songs from this period. Its form can be described as AABC, where each of those letters describes an 8-bar section. If you're relatively new to jazz improvisation, all these chords on the lead sheet might seem rather daunting at first. But after further analysis, it becomes apparent that this piece really isn't too complicated harmonically. Based on the final cadence in the last line, the key is G minor, although we also spend some time in B flat major, which is the relative major. The piece is constructed almost entirely of 2-5-1 progressions. If you need a refresher as far as 2-5-1 progressions are concerned, we can use B flat major as an example. If we take the B flat major scale and we stack up seventh chords on each scale degree using only the notes found in the scale, we'll generate the following chords. When we're talking about harmony, we often utilize Roman numerals to refer to specific chords in a key and describe their function. One of the most common progressions that we find in jazz utilizes these three chords: the 2 chord, the 5 chord, and the 1 chord. Recognizing the relationship between these three chords is particularly helpful if you're improvising, because it allows you to keep track of the big picture. Instead of having to think about each individual chord, we're suddenly able to look at this and realize that we're in B flat major. It's kind of like being able to look at a sentence and take in its meaning without having to really spend a lot of time focusing on each individual word. At the beginning of Autumn Leaves, we see a 2-5-1 progression in B flat major, followed by an E flat major 7 chord. This is another chord that's generated by the B flat major scale. These 4 measures are repeated on 2 other occasions over the course of the piece. We also see several examples of a 2-5-1 progression in G minor. Now, minor 2-5-1s are a little bit different from major 2-5-1s in that it's not always possible to take one scale and play it over all 3 chords in the progression. In many cases, however, a harmonic minor scale will work rather well, and that is the case here. So in the interest of simplicity, if you're a beginner, I would highly recommend that you try using a G harmonic minor scale over these sections of the piece. In the last 8 bars, we briefly pass through 2 additional key centers, F major and E flat major. This is accomplished through 2-5 progressions as well, although in this case they're slightly disguised through the use of tritone substitutions. This G flat 7 chord is substituting for a C7 chord in this case, and this E7 chord is substituting for a B flat 7 chord. All of this is probably enough to give you a good sense of what's happening in these chord changes, but if you'd like to take this one step further, you can actually create a simplified lead sheet for this tune. If I'm working with a particularly young student, or perhaps someone who simply hasn't spent a lot of time dealing with a variety of scales, I often find that it can be helpful to try to explain things in terms of major scales that they are hopefully already familiar with. In this piece, you can really take advantage of the relative major-minor relationship between B flat major and G minor, and you can effectively take a B flat major scale and use it as a foundation for the entire piece. Then it's simply a matter of identifying pitch exceptions, or important notes in the underlying harmony that aren't reflected in the B flat major scale. For example, in the second line of this piece, if you use the notes of a B flat major scale, but you substitute an F sharp for the F natural, you're effectively playing G harmonic minor, which is the scale we talked about using in this passage, but you're thinking about it in a slightly different way. The only potential downside to a simplified lead sheet like this is that it can cause you to gloss over some of the details of the harmony. On the plus side, however, this is a really powerful tool for beginning improvisers, and it can offer them a great opportunity to develop confidence playing over changes.
There are many, many great recordings of this tune out there, but I want to call your attention to two specific ones that I think would be worth your time. First, the 1958 recording featuring Cannonball Adderley and Miles Davis, and second, the Bill Evans recording from 1960 on his Portrait in Jazz album with his trio. These would be two really good ones to get you started. Good luck working on this tune. I hope some of this information's been useful for you, and I hope you enjoy this brief performance of Autumn Leaves.